What's up, guys? Thank you for joining. We now have another full plot leak for Avengers Doomsday. Now, this leak comes from a Brazilian YouTuber who claims to have leaked the script. The full script. It is posted on X by Nova Silence, who translated this from Brazilian to English. And let me tell you, it seems very logical that they might go this way. But take it as a grain of salt. But everything that they have been doing, this script here really makes sense because it connects a lot of the dots. Now, let's start because it is a bit long. In a rainy New York, the camera pans up to the skies as we see another Earth approaching beneath a red sky. On a bridge, we see Hugh Jackman Wolverine and Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. Wolverine seems shaken and is holding a device in his hand, an antimatter bomb. As he goes to plant it in the ground, he catches a scent and is suddenly confronted by this Earth's protector, which is none other than Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but not just any Spider-Man. Spider-Man tries to stop Wolverine from planting the device, while Deadpool attempts to interfere with him. An intense fight breaks out. Wolverine doesn't want to hurt Spider-Man, but Spider-Man manages to handle both of them and repeatedly prevent the bomb from being planted by mere centimeters. Eventually, Wolverine succeeds in planting the device. Deadpool opens a portal using a stolen TemPad and tells Wolverine to run because the job is done. At that moment, we cut to Deadpool returning to Xavier's mansion, where an elderly Charles Xavier watches through the window. Filled with remorse as yet another world is destroyed, he sees debris from that planet falling from the sky. We then arrive at Steve Rogers' house. We discover that he has been living peacefully with his wife Peggy Carter and their sons James after traveling back in time from Endgame. However, they are surprised by an unusual visitor, Loki. More precisely, it's the Loki from the period between the first and second seasons of the series. The Loki who still works with Mobius, who waits outside. Loki explains to Steve the concept of the TVA and tells him that thanks to Steve and the Avengers, he was given a second chance and was able to see what his future will have been. Loki explained that Steve created a timeline that caused a paradox and that this timeline needs to be pruned by the TVA because it should not exist. However, out of gratitude and because he sees that Steve's finally got a happy ending, Loki relocates Steve to another universe against Mobius' wishes. He explained that this is exactly what Mobius once did for him before leaving Steve with a TVA device so that they can stay in contact. Steve is now living on Earth 828, the universe of the Fantastic Four. We cut to a baseball game on Earth 828, featuring Reed Richards, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm's. They receive an intrusion alert from the Baxter building, and when they arrive, they discover a strange figure speaking with Sue Storm and Franklin. Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom himself. Remember, guys, that was the post-ending for the Fantastic Four movie? Doom warns them that he has been studying the multiverse for years, and that an incursion is about to happen. He explained that when the fabric between two realities tears apart, a magnetic attraction forms between the universe, and the primary collision point between them is each universe Earth. Victor explained that their Earth somehow triggered the incursion, and that only Reed Richards' intellect can help solve the crisis. We discovered that Victor is obsessed with incursions. He knows everything about them. Sue Storm remains suspicious of Victor the entire time, fully aware that the man standing before her rules the far from diplomatic nation of Latveria. Reed and Victor investigate genetic anomalies across the planet and discover 3 distinct energy signatures: Steve, Peggy, and James. They eventually track down Steve, now bearded and with long hair, who has spent the last decade in the universe and therefore doesn't know the Fantastic Four. They explain the situation to Steve, who becomes emotional and agrees to join them in search of a solution. Steve then explained that he used the Infinity Stone to travel back in time, but that the timeline he created was never supposed to exist. He reveals that a being named Loki, somehow he already knew, eventually relocated him because Loki was part of the organization that control the timeline. After much research, Reed discovered that there's a universe destroying other universe and says he needs to know how it was done. Steve is against the idea. While Reed thinks all possibilities should be considered, Steve then says he knows a place where the technology might be sufficient. Doom explained to them that not only will that universe collide with them, but another universe as well, Steve Rogers' universe, and that somehow the 3 universes are connected. However, Doom warns that when they travel from another universe to another, the time for the incursion decreases drastically, which is why they need to be quick. They all leave with stopwatches. Steve, the Fantastic Four, and Doom depart for the MCU using the Fantastic Four's rocket. Inside the ship are the Fantastic Four, Franklin Richard, Dr. Doom, Steve Rogers, and Herbie, the little robot. In the new Avengers Tower, the new Avengers detect the Fantastic Four ship entering orbits and heading towards Earth. Upon learning of the ship's supposed threat, Thor anticipates the arrival and greets them. At this moment, we have the first interaction between Thor, Steve Rogers, where Thor is suspicious that this might not be the real Steve, until Steve will Mjolnir, which belonged to Jane Foster, gaining Thor's trust, and the two embrace in a somewhat sweet reunion moment. At this point, Sam Wilson and the Avengers enter Avengers Tower, and there's a brief discussion about who should take command of the mission, which they consider crucial for Earth. Sam was preparing for it, as were Yelena and Bucky. Thor appears at the meeting, ascends Avengers Tower with the Fantastic Four, Dr. Doom, Steve Rogers, and delivers a speech that unites the team. So the Avengers, led by Sam and Thor, head towards Wakanda in a Fantastic Four ship. Steve says he wants to speak with T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, but is surprised by King M'Baku and his Black Panther Shuri, who already knew about the incursion and was already looking for a solution. In this scene, the sky is reddish, and Wakanda is the main location where the incursion can already be seen. With everyone gathered in Wakanda, the whole situation is explained, and Shuri says they have to help from another army. Then we see Namor sitting on his throne, and discover that they are actually under the ocean and that Namor is using the water around them as a plan to flood if there is a threat. Namor enters the scene along with the leaders of each group, and they discover that the three Earths are colliding: the MCU, Earth 828, and the universe that destroyed other universes. Steve tells Thor that Loki is alive and is a kind protector of multiverse and help him survive, suggesting it would be good to go to him as he may have a solution. Now, a philosophical debate ensues. Reed thinks this is the natural process of the multiverse, that the destiny of the multiverse is death, but that they can try to find alternatives and fight to the end. Sam thinks that they should fight and find a way to stop this without bloodshed. Namor is against it and says that if there is a way to destroy the other universes coming towards them, they should do it, and that the main target should be the X-Men universe. Meanwhile, Shuri and Sue Storm are completely suspicious of all the plans and are working together somehow secretly, and Dr. Doom remains completely silent, basically agreeing with everything. Sam Wilson says they need to gather the Infinity Stones. Scott Lang says the quantum realm is no longer an option and that time travel is now extremely dangerous. Steve says returning the gem caused a new timeline that needed to be destroyed, and that going back in time now would only make things worse and accelerate the incursion. Reed says Galactus was a natural alternative to feed on the other Earth, but he doesn't know where he went. However, he has an idea: push the Earths away using the same technology he would use in the Fantastic Four movie, but this must be done. So, with the help of Wakanda and remaining heroes on Earth, they began building a cannon in the MCU that would generate a force to push the other planets away. But to do this, they would need to go to the other universe and convince their population to build similar cannons. They need to act as quickly as possible, so part of the team stays on Earth to rebuild these cannons while the other parts head towards the X-Men universe. Meanwhile, Steve and Thor heads towards the TVA using the device Loki left with Steve. We then see our heroes and Doom arriving on the X-Men's Earth. They discover that this universe is catastrophic. Having already survived several incursions, they head towards Xavier's mansion when they are surprised and the X-Men are not friendly, so a battle ensues. According to my source, this is one of the best scenes in the films, featuring duels like Yelena against Mystique, a one-on-one fight between Shang-Chi and Gambit, as well as a remake of the Nightcrawler scenes from X-Men 2, but this time in the corridors of the Xavier's mansion. During the battle, Deadpool appears putting his balls, literally his balls, in Mr. Fantastic's face. The fight spiral out of control when Doom revives the activated Sentinels that attacks the X-Men. Our heroes then wonder how Doom knew about this specific detail of that universe, that Sentinel existed, that hunted humans. Magneto confronts the Sentinels while Xavier talks to Reed Richard and takes him to meet Beast. Beast tells Reed Richard that they have already suffered several incursions and destroyed other universes using an antimatter bomb. They fight to prevent the extinction of the mutant race, since the other universes they faced did not have mutants. They also explain that they have already managed to overcome mutant extinction using time travel, meaning this universe may be similar to Days of Future Past. They have already experienced mutant destruction and world destruction, so they are fighting in every way possible to survive. Beast adds that their universe has somehow already been mapped and is an easy point for incursions, which is why they keep happening. We cut to Thor and Steve arriving at the TVA, which is completely destroyed. Steve tried to locate Morbius, who no longer works for the TVA. They manage to find him, and he helps them reach Loki. But they arrive too late. Loki is dead, and the timeline are loose and begin to collide uncontrollably. Morbius then investigates what happened, and using his TVA experience, explains to Thor and Steve that a being in a green hood and mask invaded the TVA and destroyed everything and everyone. Before that, during the regrouping in Wakanda, each character went to their own universe. Doom left to prepare for battle, explaining that he needed to upgrade his armor because they now knew that universe was actively destroying others. Until then, he had been wearing a more neutral suit, but he returned in full armor. It is implied that during this time, Doom executed his plan against Loki. Meanwhile, Doom triggers a war between the X-Men and the Sentinels. While the Avengers and Fantastic Four try to stop him, Doom claims this is destiny. The X-Men must fall so they can survive. A chaotic war erupts between X-Men, with the Avengers assisting the X-Men. Everyone suspects Doom's and tries to stop him, what they believe is fate itself. Thor arrives in the middle of the battle with hatred in his heart and attacks Doom, while Steve reveals the truth to the Avengers, X-Men, and Fantastic Four. Doom is particularly invincible. He glows with green eyes, shocking Thor, and defeats nearly everyone before kidnapping Steve and fleeing to his universe. The remaining defeated heroes regroup in Universe 616 at Avengers Towers, planning a full-scale assault on Doom with an entire army. This time, all heroes unite against him. Thor then calls upon an army sent by Odin, coming directly from Valhalla, warriors who have died and returned to fight. They all say goodbye to their loved ones and depart for the greatest battle of their lives in Universe 828 at Doom's home in Latveria. In Latveria, they are received by the servant of Dr. Doom, men and women who faithfully follow, coming directly from Valhalla, warriors who have died and returned to fight. They all say goodbye to their loved ones and depart for the greatest battle of their lives in Universe 828 at Doom's home in Latveria. In Latveria, they are received by the servant of Dr. Doom, men and women who faithfully follow Rabor, the destroyer of worlds. Among them is Boris, Doom's right-hand man. A masked magician with space for a third eye appears, whom is believed to be Doctor Strange. Another figure confronts Steve Rogers, and when she removes her mask, it is none other than Peggy Carter. It is unclear whether this is truly Peggy or a witch manipulating Steve's psyche. In the group, other women display familiar magical signature, some resembling Clea and possibly Wanda Maximoff. Finally, reaching Doom, he reveals his story. Victor was a researcher from Latveria who used both magic and technology to understand the multiverse. During his travel, he fell in love with a woman from another universe who became his wife and gave him a son or a daughter. The incursion caused by that woman's presence destroyed everything. However, his research led to an explosion in his lab, which killed his family and left him completely disfigured, forcing him to survive in armor like Darth Vader. Doom blames Steve Rogers and Reed Richards for experiencing what he never could. His plan was always to allow incursions to happen in order to map all the universe, but he only needed one key detail, a way to contact the army that brought Steve Rogers to this Earth. In doing so, he discovered Loki, who is extremely vulnerable. With Loki weakened, Doom believes he can control the future of the multiverse as he sees fit. He explained that he had planned to steal Loki's power. In a flashback, we see Doom pulling out Loki's spine as he did to Thanos in the comics. By absorbing Loki's power, he could reshape the multiverse and recover his family free from the threat of incursions. In his visions, all existence will be merged into a single universe ruled by him. The final battle takes place in Latveria as the Earth are about to collide. The heroes fight with no certainty, while Doom humiliates them and waits for the incursion. Using Loki's stolen power, he manipulates magic and reality itself. His servant resembles a coven witch and wizard performing a ritual around a glowing book, possibly the Dark Hold, though it is never confirmed. At this moment, the Sentry appears for the first time. He physically holds back the incursion between the three universes, giving the heroes more time to fight. However, it is not enough. He eventually collapses, weakened. Despite the delay, the collision eventually occurs. A flash engulfs the screen, and when it fades, we see Emperor Doom sitting on the throne of a new universe, one he now rules. Dun dun dun, and that is probably going to be the end of Avengers Avengers Doomsday, and we're going to jump into Avengers Secret War, which we do not have a script for. But now, do you see what I'm saying, guys? Do you see how relatable that is? Like how it's connecting all the dots from the post-credit movies like Fantastic Four and the new Avengers. When they see the Fantastic Four ship, it's connecting all these dots. I mean, this plot here seems legit, you know. It really makes sense, and it makes it for a great movie, jumping from these universes, fighting each other, X-Men, you know. Too bad Toby dies in the beginning, but, you know, having all these, you know, team that we've been watching for years fighting each other seems like such a great plot to put in a movie. And if this script is real, this is probably insane. This is going to be one of the best damn Avengers Doomsday Avengers movie of all time, you know. I can't wait. Sorry if it was long, guys, but you know, it is the full plot of Avengers Doomsday. So if you like, please subscribe, click the like, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.